back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Smarktank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. We are your hosts. I'm Joey Business. He's Donnie Wonderful, and we're back with our next installment, our second installment of Retromania, where we, in chronological order, depict and critique each Wrestlemania to the best of our advantage. And we're not going off of reading the results and determining. We're going off of where we were in our lives. So we were kids. This was 1986. I was a kid. I was 4 years old.
I wasn't speaking full sentences yet,
right. So
it's but then I was around, and this is another one of those WrestleManias like the previous one that I saw later on in life.
So
but I seen this as a teenager. Now we're going back to me, like in the late '90s, in the VHS days, where you know, like my parents' friends were real fans of wrestling back then. Wrestling, WWF back then was a real family show. Yep. So, you know, like, you know, mom, dad, grandma, like almost everybody watched it, you know, or was curious enough about it. And at that time, we kind of coming of age, and I was I want to say probably about like 13 when I seen it, and you know, I was just gathering all the knowledge of wrestlers from the past, because like my dad used to talk about them all the time. And we're at WrestleMania 2. So you know, this WrestleMania took place in 3 different arenas, which today would probably be better, but like if you bought a ticket to see WrestleMania, from what I heard on some interviews, so like, you know, where if let's say you were at the Nassau Coliseum in New York City, so you watch your matches and then you're watching the rest from a screen.
Yep.
Allegedly, if there's anybody that's listening to this that was around and went to one of those events, please confirm please confirm or deny whether that was it. But much like the first one, you know, this card is stacked full of Hall of Famers
names and
legends, and you know, Mr. T was back. I remember Mr. T and Roddy Piper in the boxing match.
That's great.
His specialty.
That was great because that was a callback to WrestleMania 1.
Yeah. That
showed continuity, and it also gave you the first time that things can come around a year later. So there would always be a comeuppance where, like, you know, you would have a feud that would percolate at the previous year, but then all of a sudden would finally come to fruition the next year.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I watched this as a teenager myself. Yeah. You know, you and I, there's not much age difference between us. I watched this on VHS. Man, I mean, I wasn't super impressed with it.
Me either. Back then, you know, I was just surprised that I was able to recognize some of these guys, and like I remember, so Jake Roberts was on. This was even before he was he Jake the Snake then?
No,
but just seeing him out while they were younger, was something big. So like I was a big fan of Don the Rock Morocco, the Magnificent Morocco here.
So was Mick Foley.
Yeah. And Paul Orndorff fought to a double count out. That's what the match opened up with at the Nassau Coliseum. So the first 4 matches took place at the Nassau Coliseum. The next 4 took place in the Rosemont Horizon over in Chicago, and then the last 4 took place at the Memorial Sports Arena in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and to me, this is an interesting concept because it's 3 different venues, but it doesn't work.
No,
you're getting gypped. Who wants to pay all that money for 4 matches that you see in your spot?
Yeah.
And then you have to watch the rest on a television show? So, I mean, it's like, it was a great concept, but at the same time, I mean, come on. This pay-per-view is only memorable for 3 things for me. It's memorable for Mr. T and Roddy Piper, which, you know, classic, just for the spectacle. Randy Savage and George the Animal Steele, because of George the Animal Steele was like, it was the King Kong and, you know, the girl scenario where George the Animal Steele was the hulking brute, the hulking ugly, you know, outcast who was in love with the beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And Macho Man, it was an interesting story because Macho Man was the asshole somehow because the crowd was behind George the Animal Steel. Because even though he was hideous, people had the soft spot that wanted him to get the girl and hated Macho Man because he was the overprotective jerk. But it's like, I mean, come on. Randy Savage is one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite.
Yep.
So it's like, that's memorable because the spectacle, I won't call the match a classic. It just, the encounter was classic.
The encounter, okay. I will say, the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid. I heard a lot about the Dynamite Kid. I remember seeing him in the late '80s, but as you guys, or you may not know if you're new to Smarktank Revolution, like I'm a big, huge Bret the Hitman Hart fan.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, the very, very huge understatement.
Yeah.
And I was privy to his history with the Dynamite Kid over in Stampede Wrestling.
Yep.
And then, hearing other guys talk about how good the Dynamite Kid was, like later on in the 90s, is always. I was also a big Chris Benoit fan.
I was about to say that might be a taboo word, but you took the word right out of my mouth. The closest comparison I can make to Dynamite Kid and somebody that would be in at least relevant time that people would understand as a wrestling fan, maybe our age or a little younger, Chris Benoit.
Minus the athletic ability though, because like they had a good look. Like the Dynamite Kid could do hip ups and like front head flips. I'm not even sure what to call it.
The kick ups, yeah.
Kick ups and like the
front face locks.
Front face lock. But yeah, Chris Benoit is a beautiful parallel, and Chris Benoit was a huge fan and inspired by the Dynamite Kid.
Extremely inspired.
I also remember hearing in an interview how Shawn Michaels loved the Dynamite Kid.
Yes, he did.
So just that's a good reference. There they had Lou Albano and Ozzy Osbourne in there.
Oh God, I love Ozzy. So I rewatched that myself just because I'm a diehard Ozzy fan, and like just to see Ozzy Osbourne at a wrestling event, which they only did once after, which was when they did the Raw GM of the Week.
Yeah,
that's the only time I ever seen Ozzy Osbourne besides WrestleMania 2 at a wrestling event. So it's quite a special thing for me.
The Dream Team too with Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine.
Yeah.
I like that tag team. Now that tag team's gonna implode by WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, this had Ricky Steamboat defeating Hercules Hernandez. I don't ever think I ever seen Hercules ever win.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't either.
Adrian Adonis, I was a real big fan. I become a big fan later, and I remember in one of our past episodes that's also on this channel. Yes, I jokingly said that like for the best parent, Adrian Adonis versus Goldust, would be that'll be a squash. But Adrian Adonis versus Goldust would be the most bizarre match, with the pun intended.
And that's pretty cool. So yeah, this main event, I recall it. I watched it on video.
Yeah, me too.
In my teens, because I was 4 here, and Hogan versus Bundy. That was a good.
In a cage match.
In a cage match. If I had to grade it, it was a 2. And it's only a 2 because everything else on this card, the best I can give is a 2. So like it was a 2 count because Randy Savage versus Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth.
I mean,
whoa.
Whoops. Whoa. Sorry, we're not advocating women. The Randy Savage.
Don't need to us.
Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth. It's late, guys. Versus George Animal Steel. I give a 2 count only because by default I cannot give any Randy Savage match a 1 count. I'm that much of a macho mark.
No.
So.
Ooh, I cannot wait till we get to.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Right now, these are like these WrestleManias are like bottom of the barrel. They're just significant because they started it all.
Yeah.
Other than that, they were like compared against what comes after these, they're nothing special. They're just such run of the mill. Hogan and Bundy, it was 2 count, and it was a cage. It was a title match. That's it.
I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna add another component to our grading system. I know it's
most of these are DQs.
Yeah, most of them are DQs.
Big time.
I mean, like I would say, like a 2.5 count because this was technically better than the previous WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So, but you know, we'll stick to our actually. I recant that statement. We're gonna stick to our very strict grading system, our 3-count grading system. I'm gonna get us a 2-count too. Nothing that really stood out to me here, but it's business about to pick up.
Yep.
Like the WrestleManias that follow.
Oh yeah.
This, of course, you know, WrestleMania 3 is next.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a wrestling fan for over 2 decades.
Yep.
You like if you're a wrestling fan back in the Attitude Era, you've heard some of your favorite Attitude Era superstars reference a specific match
coming up
on WrestleMania 3. And I can't wait for us to talk about that. But really for me, the memory is about to kick in with when we get to WrestleMania 4.
Yeah.
And that was my mother had that on VHS and I watched that several times. So from 4 down, you know, the memory's about to kick in, but
absolutely.
But the first 2, you know,
training wheels.
You know, it's the Retromania series, and
this
is WrestleMania 2. But on our next show, when we talk about WrestleMania 3, I guess that's where that
shit gets real.
Yeah. The first was that the first big crowd attendance for WrestleMania?
Yeah, it was the Pontiac
Silverdome,
which was I think 91,000.
We'll have to fact check that.
I believe it's 91,000.
We'll have to fact check that. Again, it's late, guys. Have mercy on us. But yeah, so WrestleMania 2, I think unanimously gets a 2 count.
It gets a 2 count only because I can't bring myself to give it a 1 count. It's a 2 count, but compared against any other WrestleManias, it's barely it's almost a DQ.
Disqualified.
It's almost a DQ.
Compared to how things progress and as they do over time, if you're doing the right thing. So yeah, that's WrestleMania 2, Smarktank Revolution, Joey Business, Donnie Wonderful. We'll be back with our Retromania series, and when we talk about WrestleMania 3, I promise you guys are gonna love it.
Yes.